What about second breakfast?
Time for second breakfast.
What's up, everybody? Monster from Breakdowns for Breakfast here with another second breakfast. If you are a music fan or someone who likes to go see live music, you probably are if you listen to this show on a semi-regular basis. You've probably noticed the price of going to a show has gotten so outrageous that you've probably skipped out on a couple of shows. I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, my wife and I would see who was coming to town and be like, do you want to go see this artist? I don't know, maybe. And you look at the ticket prices and go, you know what? Why not? It might be fun. And my wife and I used to go see tons of shows. I would take her to go see 311 and to see Issues and like rock and metal bands. She would take me to go see Beyonce and Britney Spears, and we both wanted to go see Lady Gaga, so that was great. But we used to go way more often than we do now. Now, granted, we have children, and that's part of it too, but my kids like live music as well, especially my 7-year-old. And so sometimes when I'm looking at buying tickets, I'm looking at, okay, I know my wife wants to go, my daughter wants to go, maybe my dad wants to go, my brother, we all want to sit together. And so you're looking at maybe trying to buy 5 or 6 tickets in one area. And that is getting increasingly more difficult because the prices of these tickets are outrageous. So outrageous that Ticketmaster and Livenation got involved in a lawsuit a couple years ago, and there's been some recent developments with that. There's also a new quote-unquote phenomenon known as blue dot fever, which, like I just got done saying, if you're anything like me, you've passed on some concerts just because you just couldn't afford it. And finally, the artists are starting to feel that pushback. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit. This is very kind of stream of consciousness. I don't have all the answers here. I'm the authority of nothing. So I just want to give you a little bit of a heads up on what the lawsuit was, kind of what stage it's in right now, and then how it's affecting artists and consumers. And as someone who has... I'm using this very loosely because obviously you weren't going to Ticketmaster to buy tickets to see my bands play. But as I discussed on some of my previous episodes, it's not always easy for somebody to come out of pocket $20-25 to come see a couple of local bands, and then what it's going to cost in gas, and then you're probably going to go out to eat before or after. That adds up really quick right now. So give you a little bit of information on this, the lawsuit. So the lawsuit was filed by the U.S. Department of Justice back in May of 2024. And it was basically saying that Livenation was using exclusive contracts, threats, and retaliation to monopolize concert promotion and major venue ticketing. What that basically means is Livenation was saying you have to use our services to sell tickets to your venue or for your artist or whatever the case may be. And if not, you won't get to perform at, Madison Square Garden or whatever. And so that in the verdict, it just actually happened a couple months ago, April of 2026, a federal jury ruled that Livenation unlawfully maintained a monopoly over ticketing services for major concert venues and illegally tied artists' ability to play at large amphitheaters. So that's exactly what I was just saying. Because Livenation, there was no other option. You couldn't say, okay, we're not going to use Livenation, we're going to use Tickets Plus or whatever. They would say, no, if you want to play at, again, I'm using Madison Square Garden because it's the biggest venue I can think of, but obviously there's amphitheaters in every state. I mean, hell, this is kind of within the past 10 or 15 years, I feel like there's the amphitheater in your town, and then there's like the little one that holds a couple thousand less. And me personally, I love the fact that we have all these different size venues that you can have. Okay, if you need a 20,000 person seater, we got one. If you need a 10,000, we got one. And then here in Greensboro, we've got the Greensboro Coliseum, but we also have Piedmont Hall, which is right outside of it. So like, for example, when Sleep Token came through, they played the Coliseum. When Black Veil Brides just came through, they played the Piedmont Hall. Holds a few thousand people. It's too big for like a Hangar 1819 or like your sort of more local regional venue, but it's not big enough for a Coliseum. But Live Nation was basically taking those great big venues and saying, hey, if you don't use our services, you don't book here. So that's a real problem. And a lot of artists are just going to basically bite the bullet. And that's kind of how we ended up where we are. So prior to the jury verdict, the DOJ reached a settlement with Live Nation, and basically said, you guys are, you can't keep doing this. And where we're at now is they're basically trying to come up with I don't want to say punish, but penalize Live Nation for what they've done, with a lot of people saying that they should be forced to have a corporate breakup so they no longer have a monopoly. You live in a capitalistic society. This is kind of one of the things that can happen. And the problem is, though, is without healthy competition, who gets ripped off? The consumer, which is where we're at now. And if you are a concert goer, this has been pissing you off for a long time because, there is no competition. If you want to go to a show, you have to buy tickets through Live Nation / Ticketmaster, and that's all there is to it. And they can charge whatever kind of fees they want to charge because they're the only game in town. What this lawsuit does is potentially create competition again to where they aren't the only game in town, and you can pick and choose who you want to buy your tickets from for different events. Obviously, certain companies and certain locations are going to stick with whoever the biggest one is, and, there's always going to be some of that, and there's unfortunately nothing we can really do about it. I'm really hoping that the days of the $20, $30 concert ticket will eventually start to come back, because this is where we get into the new problem. I say new problem, but the Blue Dot Fever. Blue Dot Fever, if you ever go to buy tickets on Ticketmaster or Live Nation, you'll see a great big picture of the venue, and you'll see all these tiny little blue dots everywhere. Those blue dots are available seats. You click on that and it tells you how much those seats are going to be. The joke, this Blue Dot Fever, is basically a lot of bigger well-known bands and artists canceling performances and tours because there's too many blue dots, because they're not selling enough tickets. So then it really comes down to who's at fault. And I am not the authority on any of this. I also know I've played a lot of shows where people paid to get in and I didn't get paid anything. Ticket sales rarely go to the artist themselves. The ticket sales typically go to the Ticketmaster Live Nation, the people that are servicing the tickets, the staff and the employees at said venues, and then also just the use of the venue. There's no way I'm going to know any of this information, but if you want to book out a music venue, like when you go to book a tour, you are basically saying, okay, it costs us XYZ to have this venue open for a night. Now, if you are telling me you were going to give us that, sure, you can have that date. If you want to negotiate that, I guess some venues might do that, but most of the time they're just going to say no, because we'll have somebody else that will. Your ticket price goes towards that. So you have to charge a certain amount. Obviously giving away free tickets and the lower you put your tickets, the more chance you'll sell more, but you also want to make sure you make enough to cover your expenses. Most of the artist revenue from these tours and these live performances now is coming off of merch, which I get it, dude. I buy a concert tee every show I go to almost. but they are also getting increasingly more expensive. And it's really hard to justify spending $100 on a concert ticket, spending $40 in gas to get there, spending $20 on fast food to eat, and then spending $50 on a t-shirt. That's crazy. That's a good chunk of a lot of people's paychecks, and that's really difficult to do. So, just like movie theaters, just like all these other things, attendance is dropping, and it's dropping at a rate that they have to do something or they will stop. Live music will stop. And I know that sounds like an alarmist thing to say, but we're really getting to that point because, again, if you don't want to spend $10-15 to go see a bunch of local bands, I get it. If you don't want to spend $150 to go see your favorite band, I also get that. And unless they can make it more affordable, people are just going to stop going. Especially with the way YouTube and technology has advanced to the point where I don't want to go stand, and I'm guilty of this too. I'm definitely not saying that if the next big show I want to go to, if the tickets are $20 instead of $80, I'm not saying I'm guaranteeing I'm going. But what I am saying is when I get to that ticket screen and I see that it's $20, and then when I click on it and the fees and taxes and it goes up to $30, not the tickets are $50 and then I click on this button and now I'm paying $78. You see what I'm saying? You see where the problem is. And anybody listening to this, chances are if you're listening to this, you like music, you like going to see live music, you know exactly what I'm talking about, and you're in the same boat. So with this Blue Dot Fever situation, I'm really, really hoping that even the biggest artists are starting to go, wait a minute. We have kind of lost the plot here. And if we don't make it more affordable, people are not going to come. And I think that's starting to happen. The artists that are feeling it now are mostly the ones that are too big to play anywhere other than the Coliseum, but they're not so big that they're like ubiquitous. Like, for example, some of the bigger artists I've heard that are canceling their shows are Meghan Trainor, the Pussycat Dolls. I think it was some country artist, maybe Luke Bryan or Jason Aldean. Like, I think even Post Malone, maybe. But these artists that are very big and very well known, but they don't have that diehard following like you have with a Taylor Swift or a Lady Gaga. They're going to sell out these shows. They're going to charge outrageous prices and get whatever they ask for because that's the kind of fan base they have. But again, like Meghan Trainor is a great example. That's the kind of artist, I'm not saying her specifically, but that level of artist is the kind of artist that my wife and I a few years ago would be like, do we want to go see her? Like, we don't love her. We know a few songs, but it might be fun. Let's see, blah, blah, blah. Can we swing it? Nobody's doing that anymore. It's we are going to go or we're not going to go based on how much we like this artist and how much does it cost. There's very little going on a whim anymore because it's just too damn expensive. So, with all that being said, the lawsuit is currently in a phase where they're trying to get Livenation and Ticketmaster basically rein them in. Now, what that looks like for the future, especially short term, probably not much. But there could be potentially refunds and vouchers and stuff coming down the pipe that will make it a little easier for people to go see these bigger shows. And I, for one, hey, anything that makes this easier and makes it more affordable sounds great to me. Because like I said, I love going to see live music. So does my wife. My 7-year-old's getting a taste for it. My 4-year-old's still on the fence, but I think it's just too loud, and I think she's gonna grow into it as well because I know she loves music as well. So I feel like they basically have no choice. The price of everything has gone up, and if they want people to continue to support them, they're going to have to figure out how to make a living without overcharging. It's almost like the whole streaming thing again. Back when when musical artists made money off of album sales, they don't anymore. They used to make money off of ticket sales. They don't anymore. I've been saying this for a while now. I don't know how any musician makes a living. Unless you are in that top 1%, that Taylor Swift, Metallica, like if you're in that category, you're fine. But if you are somebody like just about every size band we talk about on our show, you know, from Ashes to New and Silent Planet and Avoid, like those guys have jobs. Those guys do other things than just play music, or they have some kind of a living arrangement where they don't have, you know, $500 to $1,000 of expenses every month for utilities and stuff. They just don't, because it's impossible. It just flat out is impossible. So is this going to make a huge change overnight? No. Will it make things better in the long run? I think it will. So what are your thoughts on this? Have you cut back on going to concerts because of the price, because it's just you can't afford it anymore? Are there artists that you say, hey, I'll pay anything as long as I can see them? Like, what are your thoughts on this situation? I'd love to hear about it. And yeah, I hope to go to some more live music this year. Hopefully prices will come down and I can go to some shows. But anyway, thanks for hanging out. I hope you have a great day.
What about second breakfast?
Time for second breakfast.